Yo, what's going on, guys? Mush back at it with my 10 hidden gems for the Steam Summer Sale 2017. Now, I had a lot of fun making this video, just going back and looking through all the games on Steam, really digging to find some hidden gems as per se the title. It was just a lot of fun going through and looking at some games. I found some games that I didn't even know existed and added them to my wish list. Honestly, 10 games is pretty limiting. I could probably make a video of like 100, 150 hidden gems on Steam. Probably more than that if I took the time, sat down, and played everything. There's just that many great games on Steam. A lot of them from, 7, 10 years ago that you've completely forgotten about. But I am here to uncover those games. By the way, before we get into this video, I am doing a giveaway of two $50 Steam gift cards. I'll leave a link to that video in the description box. Check it out, enter, and it is ending before the Steam Summer Sale is up. So if you win, you will have that $50 to use during the summer sale, which is pretty nice. So with that being said, let's get right into this. So the first game is The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. 85% off takes it down from its retail price of $20 down to $3. This released back in 2014, and this is a very good looking game that was actually remastered and now runs on the Unreal Engine 4. It's called The Vanishing of Ethan Carter Redo. You get both the original and the remaster if you just pick up the game, and then it also has a VR mode. The VR mode, there's a bundle that includes the game and the VR portion. That's also 85% off for $4.48. This is a very story-driven game and a very atmospheric game, very absorbing, and it has some amazing scenery. I'm really surprised at how under the radar this game went. It reminds me something of like Dear Esther, which that was a great game as well, but I feel like got a lot more attention than The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, which I feel like is almost as good of a game, maybe not quite as good, but it's got that same air of mystery and atmosphere. $3 for the game is an absolute steal, and I would highly recommend it.
You know this is wrong! Where's Ethan, goddammit? Talk to me!
He's just a kid. He didn't disturb anything. He just found a room in an old house.
Next up, we've got a racing game, Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. Yes, Need for Speed is coming back this year with, I believe, Need for Speed Payback. I think that's a horrible name, but that's a different point entirely. Need for Speed Hot Pursuit is a fantastic game, released back in 2010. So again, another game a lot of you younger gamers probably don't know anything about, or you probably have just forgotten about it even if you are a little bit older, but it is a great Need for Speed game, arguably the best of them all. Honestly, this ranks up with like Most Wanted. Obviously, you'll want to play this game with the controller, as is the case with the majority of racing games, but in Hot Pursuit you can play as a cop or a racer, and it lends itself to two very distinct gameplay styles, and it's a lot of fun. Unfortunately, the multiplayer component isn't all that active, but just to play solo, it's well worth it. 75% off for $5, really solid deal for Hot Pursuit. Next up, we've got one of the real hidden gems that I found, and that's Advent Rising. This game came out back in 2005, and a lot of people would compare it to something like Mass Effect. It's not that good. I remember playing this on the original Xbox. It is 90% off down to a measly 49 cents. So yes, it's an older game, it's not the best looking game, but for 49 cents, you're getting a pretty good third-person shooter that's got a pretty good story. As far as I remember, I mean, come on, it's going back 12 years. But for that price tag, I think it's a game that you should pick up and have some fun with. I actually picked the game up. I mean, for 49 cents, how can you go wrong with that? That's just too good of a deal. It probably hasn't aged the best. If you enjoy titles like Mass Effect, it might be fun to go back and see one of the earlier games of that style. It was fun, but I can imagine at this point it being kind of clunky, but for 49 cents, I mean, how can you go wrong? Next up, we've got Sonic Generations, 75% off for $5. This also includes the Sonic Generations Casino Nights DLC. And Sonic Generations is an awesome Sonic game. I know there's been some very bad Sonic games in recent memory, but Sonic Generations is one that was so good. It combines both styles of Sonic play, the 3D style and the 2D style, and it meshes to create such an awesome platformer. This was the 20th anniversary of Sonic, so it's a very charming game for fans of the franchise, but if you just want a really good platformer, again, Sonic Generations is a great option. It's got some awesome music, the gameplay is on point, and visually, even being a bit older, artistically, the design is on point. $5 for the game is a really solid deal, and I know a lot of people don't associate PC and Sonic together, but Sonic Generations is definitely a good game. A lot of the older Sonic games are also on sale, so if you want any of those, make sure to check those out as well. Next up, we've got one of my personal favorite games, Oxenfree, 75% off down to $5. This was one of the only games that I actually created a review for on my channel, so if you want to check that out, go for it. I actually put a lot of work into that review, and it'll give you a better idea of what the game is. It's a thriller about a group of friends in high school. They go away on this island, supernatural beings are introduced, and it's very story-driven. It tells a very good story. You get to make a lot of choices, so there's definitely a reason on playing the game multiple times. And aesthetically, it's a beautiful game. From the art direction, the sound, the voice acting is also on point, which is very important for a game like this where it is very story-driven. The voice acting is just so good. It's very believable. And yeah, this game went really under the radar. Barely anybody played it, but definitely check it out. It's only $5, and if you want to pay a little bit more, you can pay $6.24 and get the soundtrack as well. And like I said, the soundtrack is very good. But at the very least, if you're into the Telltale style of experiences, check out Oxenfree for $5. It's well worth it.
Here a lot as a kid, right? To the island. I mean that's what Ren made it sound like.
Yeah, but I mean...
You used to come here a lot as a kid, right? You used to come here a lot as a kid.
Something's wrong.
Next up, another game that I really enjoyed is Axiom Verge, 50% off for $10, so one of the more expensive games on this list. But again, this is another game that went super under the radar, and I thought I should give it a mention. I believe Axiom Verge was developed by a single person, and when you look at the type of detail that's in the game, that's astonishing. It's an old school Metroidvania style game with some modern twists. If you played Super Metroid back in the day, you will feel right at home. It's got this great pixel art style that, yes, while it's pixel art, I can still appreciate playing it in 2017. It's also got a decent amount of content being the style of game that it is. And again, this is another game released 2 years ago. Hardly anybody talks about it anymore. Not many people talked about it when it came out, and that's a shame because it is a terrific Metroidvania style game. If you're into games like Metroid, Castlevania, Axiom Verge will be right up your alley. Yes, I know $10 is a little steep, but I think this is one where the price is justified. Next up, we've got the Talos Principle, 75% off down to $10. This released back in 2014, and this game actually did get some attention around the time it came out. So I was on the verge of putting this off the list, but I was like, I don't really see anybody recommending this game anymore. So I thought, let's leave the Talos Principle on this list, and it is 75% off down to $10, which I think is a really solid deal for this game. It's a first-person puzzle game, and you guys might know me, I'm not into puzzle games all that much, but Talos Principle just has this really cool style and atmosphere, and this very unique sci-fi presentation that made it easy for me to get into the game. There's a lot of content to the game with a lot of puzzles, over 100 I believe, and there's actually a pretty interesting story in here as well that's told in a pretty unique way. The game isn't linear, so you're kind of left to your own devices, and it's a very interesting game. For $10, I do think it's worth it, and technically it also does look very good, so check out the Talos Principle if you haven't.
my child, you may go freely to all the worlds of my garden. But if the tower tempts you, be wise. Do not let yourself be misled by doubt. For it shall bring death and the end of your generations.
Next up is another one of my personal favorites, and that's Danganronpa. Yes, another one of these weebish games. This is probably, in a sense, the most weeb game I've ever gotten into. I hate saying that, but it is what it is. I mean, you look at Danganronpa, and the first thing you think of is this is a weeb game, but it's such a freaking awesome game. It's a murder mystery in the style of a visual novel. It's got a little bit of gameplay, a little bit more than your average visual novel, but still very light on the gameplay. It's more heavy on the storytelling. Most of the gameplay comes in from the trials, and Danganronpa is a very hard game to explain. Essentially, you play as a student that doesn't remember his past at all. You get locked into this school, and the only way to escape is by killing one of your classmates and not getting caught. You, as the main character, don't do any killing, but some of your classmates do, and then you go into court and you try to figure out who did the killing, and the game is played. If you figure out who did it, then they die, and the rest of you live. Very interesting premise. I know it's a little hard to follow initially, but it tells an awesome story that will keep you on the edge of your seat. I guarantee you, you spend an hour or two and this game is going to get you hooked on the story. I guarantee you that there's just so many twists and turns, things you didn't see coming, and it is just a wonderful ride. There is also a sequel, Danganronpa 2. I would definitely play the first game before you play the second game. A third game is on the way. That is supposed to release in September, so now wouldn't be a bad time to check out Danganronpa 1 and 2. You can get both games for $27 or each of them for $15 each.
Right. Makoto's room was the scene of the crime. What more proof do you need?
Wow, this is starting to sound like a real trial.
I can't wait! I can't wait!
We have to just live here? This is bad.
Just spit it out already.
Everything they told us was a lie?
What a coincidence. I, too, have evidence to present.
What are you saying?
I find it very hard to believe.
Got it all wrong!
Now then, I've prepared a very special punishment!
It can't be.
I'm sick of this.
There's no way.
Next up, Dust and Elysian Tail, 80% off, down to $3. Another Metroidvania platformer, this one with an awesome art style, a watercolor art style that just looks great. It's this hand-painted world, just looks great, and also has a really good soundtrack. Gameplay is an action platforming style, has some RPG elements as well. A really solid game, and for $3, it's a really good deal. This is another game that got a lot of attention when it released, was on the cusp of leaving it off the list, but I figured it's only got 10,000 Steam reviews, and that's pretty low, only 102 recently. So if you haven't checked out Dust and Elysian Tail and you're a fan of games like Bastion, Metroidvania style games like Axiom Verge as well, you'll find a lot to like in Dust and Elysian Tail.
Don't you remember your duty? Don't you remember your friends?
I remember everything. And it changes nothing! You did not know? You possess a rare gift.
And finally, I thought I would give a mention to the Stalker franchise, which is one of the best PC exclusive franchises that I point to when people say PC doesn't have a lot of exclusives. This is one that's really good. It consists of 3 games, Stalker Call of Pripyat, Stalker Clear Sky, and Stalker Shadows of Chernobyl. You can buy the entire bundle for $10. Otherwise, Stalker Call of Pripyat is $5, Stalker Clear Sky is $2.50, and Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl is $5. So getting the bundle will essentially get you Clear Sky for free, which is pretty nice. A lot of people have drawn comparisons to Stalker with Fallout, and I can definitely see those comparisons, but Stalker, in my opinion, is a far more difficult game, and honestly, Stalker may be a bit more atmospheric, but it's got that same post-apocalyptic style. The games take place after a nuclear disaster, and I feel like Stalker is one of those essential PC franchises that people don't see as an essential PC franchise because it's not like a game like Crysis where it's been glorified. For its entire existence, it's kind of existed in the shadows, which is kind of apropos for a game like this, but I want to bring it out of the shadows. It's a game that I think so many gamers would love. The only issue is I just don't think enough people have played them, and for this cheap of a price, you really should check it out. If you liked Fallout, you want something a little bit more difficult, a little bit more gritty, I think Stalker will be right up your alley. And for the price point, it's perfect. So that's gonna wrap up this video, guys. As always, thanks for watching. This video took a while to put together because I was really picking and choosing which games I wanted to mention in this video. There were so many games that were almost gonna make it, however they didn't. Honestly, I think I need to do this series consistently, not just when a Steam sale is going on, just looking at hidden gem PC games, because there are a crazy amount of them that I think a lot of people are just missing out on. So that's gonna wrap up this video, guys. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.